Hi, this is your host. Every year around this time, 60,000 white-throated, that's one-horned, African mega-migrating elephants move from their dry, dusty summer homes to greener, lusher pastures. And it's not just them. Wildebeest, zebra, gemsbok, giraffe, buffalo, rhino, cheetah, lion, leopard, all manner of plain-dwelling beasts are on the move. It's the largest mass migration of terrestrial animals on the planet, but why don't they just stay put? Why do they have to keep moving? Before habitat loss forced human-wildlife conflict and limited access to resources, herds in Africa would move across thousands of miles each year, covering hundreds of kilometers per day on their way to seasonal grazing lands, waterholes, and mineral-rich areas. Today, most of these mega migrations have been reduced to small pockets of their former selves. But in a few places, large-scale movements are still happening. The good news is that we know pretty much where these migrations are going to happen because it's on a very large scale. The bad news is that we can't tell you exactly what is driving these movements at a landscape level. That's because we're still figuring it out ourselves. Hi, and welcome to this channel. Every year, wildebeest and zebra undertake spectacular journeys across the Serengeti and the Mara in search of fresh grazing land. But what about the other animals? The resident populations of predators like lions rely on these migrations for food, but they don't migrate themselves. Instead, they stay put and wait for the prey to come to them. But there's more to this story than just an abundance of prey. For example, wildebeest migration timing is driven by rainfall. And while lions can time their breeding to coincide with the migration, they don't actually follow the migrating herds. So what could be driving the movements of other large migrating mammals like elephants? Elephants are highly mobile animals whose home ranges can stretch over hundreds of square kilometers. When resources become scarce in a particular area, they'll pick up and move. But if elephant movements are driven by resource availability, why don't they just stay put when those resources become more reliable? In 2019, a group of researchers set out to answer this question and discovered something surprising. They tracked 17 elephants in Botswana's Moremi Game Reserve over the course of 2 years. They found that while elephants do move in response to rainfall and vegetation patterns, their movements also depend on the phases of the moon. That's because elephants are crepuscular. They tend to be most active at dawn and dusk, when their large bodies are less visible against the horizon, which might help camouflage them from aerial predators like lions and birds of prey. Dusk is also when many nocturnal species like the elephant's main predator, the lion, are getting ready to hunt. So it makes sense that elephants would move around during this time to avoid being spotted. But there's another possible explanation for the moon's influence on elephant movement. Elephants rely on their excellent sense of smell to find food. They use it to detect water, browse on each other from miles away. But they also use it to detect potential mates. Unlike most mammals, females are only fertile for a few days each year during ovulation. If an elephant misses its chance to conceive during a given cycle, it will have to wait until next year to try again. Males, on the other hand, want to mate as often as possible. So it is in both elephants' best interest to get out there and start looking for each other under the cover of darkness. But what does this mean for conservation? Well, while this study was able to shed light on some of the factors influencing elephant migration, more research is needed to understand the full picture. Not only does this knowledge help us understand the behavior of these magnificent creatures, but it also helps us make informed decisions about how to conserve them. For example, protected areas can be more effectively designed by taking animal behavior into account. Knowing that elephants tend to travel at night might inform decisions about where to place roads or other infrastructure. And understanding the role of moonlight in guiding their movements might help researchers predict how well an elephant population will adapt to future changes in its environment. So while we still have a lot to learn about elephant migration, one thing is clear: the African mega migration is truly a sight to behold. Thanks for watching. See you next time.